Well, good morning to you. Hello there. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm Kevin Kietzman with you over the next hour. We've got a bunch of good, fun topics for you. And we'll obviously take your phone calls if you'd like to join in. We had a lot of spirited phone calls yesterday on the topic that your host decided to lead with. And I'll try to pick another one that you maybe haven't heard of or been talking about today and see what your thoughts are on that. We will not be ignoring the Charlotte train murder story, but we're going to deal with that in about a half an hour. Not going to go into deep detail other than, we heard Pete yesterday in his crime stats, and then I added a couple yesterday that I saw from a website, and now another one, a podcaster, show host named Matt Walsh has unloaded in a clip that's about a minute long. We'll play for you in about a half an hour on the sheer statistics of crimes like this in the United States, and it's unsettling at best. We'll also talk World Cup tickets. Today, they're available. If you've entered the lottery and you get selected, you can buy World Cup tickets to the 100 and whatever many matches it is, 104 matches that'll be played in North America, including 6 in Kansas City. One politician in one major city where the World Cup is hosted is trashing the World Cup. Ooh, you're going to want to hear that. We'll tell you why. Oh, this isn't a shocker. It's for the person's own personal gain is the reason they're trashing the World Cup. So we'll get into that. Another NFL team has announced they're building a new stadium. This is 2 days in a row. We'll have that for you. We'll do that a little bit later, and it will be of note and interest to Chiefs fans. Both stadiums that have been announced this week have renovations or facilities newer than Arrowhead. And they're building brand new stadiums. No longer even considering renovating the old stadiums. But we start with a story. Well, first, let me mention this at the top because we're not going to go into details on this. We're not going to do a bunch of sports today. We just found out this morning, Mark told me, and we looked this up, Travis Kelce, on his podcast that he's recorded apparently today that will be published later today, has admitted that it was his fault that Xavier Worthy is hurt from the season opening game last Friday night in Brazil. Kelce said, I owe my guy big time. X knows it. I feel like spit is what he said. Kelce said, I was rattled the entire first half. I felt better at halftime after I saw he was in okay spirits and we got it together, but the whole team was rattled. Well, if he knew this at the time, why did we not know that after the game on Friday? But I'm sure it was asked. Why didn't anybody say, well, that was Kelce's fault? It takes 5 days to find out it was Kelce's fault, but we've learned that. And so we'll see what the hullabaloo is about that. And we'll also find out more today on Xavier Worthy's injury front and the prospects for him as the Chiefs will be meeting with the media as their regular week continues, getting ready for the Eagles on Sunday. But we start today with a story out of Texas that you may have heard briefly, but not considered much the details about. It is another in a long line of continuations of great things that are happening at educational institutions in the United States. We know several weeks ago the Trump administration targeted the Shawnee Mission School District, the Olathe School District, the Kansas City, Kansas School District, and the Topeka School Districts in Kansas for not holding up standards for Title IX and DEI and some of these other things. The Trump administration is going after these 4 districts. I'm friends with people that work in one of the districts, and they've said you can't believe the emails we're getting as educators, the people that work there, on how things are changing and the strict rules and the things you cannot do in the Shawnee Mission School District, Olathe School District, Kansas City, Kansas, and Topeka. They're all aware that Trump is gunning for them. This is a great thing for our children. It's quiet. It's bubbling beneath the surface. The legacy or regular media are not going to report on this stuff. Nobody that works there feels comfortable saying, yeah, I got this email. What is this? And if you're conservative, which there's many, heck, it may be close to 40% of the people that work as teachers and educators in our area are conservative. They're not going to speak up and say, wow, this is great. I want to go on TV and tell my story about how awesome it is that things are changing here. So I understand that people don't want to come forward, but it's happening. We saw what happened with Governor Collier last week in Kansas State University when a civil rights administrator with hate speech in his background against Jewish people was found out and fired in 4 hours. We saw it several weeks ago when the University of Kansas was put on notice by their own chancellor that there would be no exceptions and they would adhere to all of the policies that have come down from the Trump administration. And buyer beware. If you're one of the crazies on campus, the chancellor said, and you think you can just go do what you want to do, there will be repercussions. We're not doubting the Trump administration that they're going to cut our funding. And it's not going to happen here. We're not going to be the reason Trump cuts funding to Kansas. These people are finally terrified sufficiently that they're doing the work properly and not engaging in indoctrinating our children or sometimes our adult children. I present to you Texas A&M University, one of the great conservative places in America. State of Texas, this is their ag school, agriculture and mineral. It's rooted in conservatism. Hell, they got their military dudes in the stands. There's all kinds of traditions and cultures and Americana and state of Texas. There's even 11 sister institutions with A&M behind their name. This is a big university, major university. And a young lady goes to a Children's Literature 300 course class a couple of weeks ago. As the school year starts, she's a smart young lady, but she sounds a little shy. We can tell because she recorded everything. And she challenged her professor and said, my religious beliefs prohibit you from forcing the transgender things you're talking about in this class to me. And the professor says, no, they don't. It's not against the law. I can do it. And the student, who's scared and stutters kind of a lot of ums and and she's kind of meek, like she's not Radio Boy here, okay? It's not, hey, yeah, you can, not any of that. It's not Pete needing his civility bell, right? This is a pretty meek young Christian girl in a 300 level children's literature course. She's obviously very smart, well-versed, and conservative. And she says, our president of the United States has signed an executive order that says you can't teach that in here. That's not what this class is about. This is a children's literature course. And the professor says, you can't do anything about it. It's absolutely legal for me to teach this. And I'm going to teach it because this is children's literature. It's teaching children about being transgenders. And the student fires back, no, our president says there's only two genders. It's been defined by executive order in this country as male and female, and you can't do this unless the course is specifically about transgenderism, and I signed up for it. And the professor says, you're out of here. Go talk to your dean. See ya. I don't need a malcontent in here. It's on tape, and I'd play it for you, but you can't hear the professor. You can really only hear the girl. When you turn it up real loud and you compress it and you do a bunch of things, you can sort of hear the professor. So the girl comes back the next day and says, hey, I thought this was all wrapped up. She goes, well, by the way, not only am I meeting with the dean, I'm meeting with the university president about this. And the professor says, knock yourself out. There's nothing they can do. This was a professor with tenure. The girl then goes to meet the university president, and she records all of that. The university president, being of sound mind, says, well, I think something bad has happened here, and it's our fault. He took the time to read what is called the catalog, which gives a full description of what is taught in a class. Not the title of the class, not the subtitle says, we will talk about great children's literature throughout history. No, the full synopsis of what the course is. It's in the catalog. And the president of the university says to the young lady, says, you're right. Nowhere in the catalog does it say anything about transgender literature for children in this children's literature course. It says they'll study science and history and different topics for children's literature, but not transgenderism. And he says, you were wronged. This is a stain on the entire university. And he puts a statement out and says, we did the wrong thing here, and reprimanded the professor and said, you can't teach that anymore. And then took the dean and the department head and relieved them of their administrative duties. Said, you can't be in charge of your department anymore. You're going to stay on, but you can't be in charge anymore. We're going to find new people to be in charge because you've blown it. You've got a professor teaching this to students that were unaware this was going to happen. She has religious beliefs, and clearly Donald Trump is not going to be happy with this. But then the president is asked and says, I'm not in any way, no chance I'm firing the professor. Well, within 48 hours, the professor's fired. The dean and the administrator have been relieved of their duties, but are still employees in some capacity. We don't know exactly what. This young lady's a hero. She recorded everything. If you're listening to me and you're an educator, your kids are recording you. And we wonder why now all of a sudden they want to take phones from kids at school. I was like, wait a second, the teachers union might be on board with this? What's going on here? They love the phone is the babysitter, for crying out loud. Hey, have a little screen time. It's all good. Now all of a sudden teachers union may be behind taking phones away from younger kids in school. They shouldn't be on their phones at school. It's keeping them from learning. That's a whole separate topic. But ask yourself why the liberals now are like, well, maybe it's a good idea if we took the phones away. Because the kids are recording them. Way to go, kids. We love citizen journalism. This young lady's a hero. I've not seen her name published anywhere. I don't think she wants her name published anywhere, and I don't think she wants to do any interviews. But she's a rock star. Your students are now coming for you, teachers. You know what's right and what's wrong. And you taking your beliefs into a classroom and pushing them on a child, whether it's transgenderism or your favorite sports team. Don't go in there picking on kids that like K-State or Missouri because you're a KU fan or something like that. Don't do it. Don't do any of that. Don't talk about your religion. Don't get into it. It doesn't belong there. Teach the book. Whatever the book is, teach the class. Be kind to the children. Treat them with respect. You're in that field because that's what you want for these kids. You're in this field because you love children and you want to educate them, but you got to educate them by the rules. And not only have we come after the rules, we got you. We got armed students with iPhones now recording you. Don't even think you can break the rules in a class and get away with it. The first thing your president of your university did was stand up for you at Texas A&M and say, there's no way I'm firing this professor. Within hours after this got out in Texas and people lost their minds over it at Texas A&M, including donors, boosters, the Board of Regents, the governor of the state of Texas, he fired the professor. You'll have no standing. There will be no cover. If this is your industry and you're in it to go teach some sick, twisted lifestyle that you live, forget about it. It's not going to happen. We're going to get you every time. It's another day to celebrate a win. We love the wins at Uncanceled. What would you do if you were a student today? That's my question for you. We'll open the phone lines. What would you do? What would you see in the schools, the colleges, wherever it may be? What would you do to try to change things for the better? 913-408-7957 is the number to call. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
Call Kevin Kietzman, 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
I think what really is the most troubling part of all these, if there is a bad thing about all the winning, is that why do we have to feel so good about all this winning? All Trump is doing, so many things that's going on all over the country, including what's happening with education, is simply following the law. We've got rights. You have rights as students. We have separations of church and state. We have all kinds of different things that we know what the laws are. Immigration's one of them. Crime, a lot of these things that we're seeing, his ability to go, send ICE into Chicago and do what they're doing in Chicago instead of the National Guard, whatever. You've got the right to do that. How long did it take for us to move so far away from what is the law that we just ignore, common sense that we don't practice, or fairness that we just don't care about? That's really what happened with this era of at least my life, your life, our lives that we'll never forget. I'm calling it like the Obama era. I think it started in about 06, 07 when he started running. I think that's when it started. I think we just completely lost our way that we have perfectly good laws on the books in this country. Not everything needs to go to the House and have a new law. The Biden administration spent 4 years saying, we need a new immigration law. If they do their job, we wouldn't have this problem. Well, no, the laws are very clear. They're very clear. You just didn't enforce them. How can it be legal for politicians to give directives to ignore the law? That's maybe the bigger question in all this. Not, hey, are we enforcing these things at schools? Are things getting better? Can Trump withhold funds? We've got all these legal challenges. Where did we get to a point where they just said, yeah, we know that's law, but that law's been around a long time and we don't like it anymore? The Trump administration made a pretty big deal yesterday about attacking pharmaceutical advertising, which, full disclosure, benefits the company I work for here, Cumulus, in massive ways. It's a $10 billion advertising industry. And Cumulus Media takes plenty of money from pharmaceutical companies to advertise nationwide. This company has hundreds of radio stations and media outlets nationwide. It's going to affect not just pharmaceuticals. It's going to affect media. It's going to affect the healthcare system. It's going to affect doctors. What is Trump doing? There's no executive order. There's no new law. They cited laws that were written in 1985 and 1997 about pharmaceutical ads and said the advertising that we have is breaking those laws. They've gone too far. They're sending 100 cease and desist letters immediately to pharmaceutical companies for certain ads that they say are not compliant with the laws on the books. I can't detail for you what all of those laws are, but they basically, the umbrella here is the laws are to protect consumers, you and I, American citizens, from being targeted by pharmaceutical companies going around doctors, healthcare providers, and such. In other words, you show a happy couple kayaking in Alaska, and then they pull over on the rocks and they have a little campfire. They're having the best night of their life, and it looks like they're going to get it on when the sun goes down. And my God, it's just the greatest day ever because you're jabbing your arm with this thing they're selling. They're selling you something that is going to make your life a hell of a lot better than it is now. Look at these happy people. Oh, my God, they dance in the streets. We got Broadway shows breaking out right in the street because they're all on this medicine or that medicine. Oh, they've gone too far. There's no question about it because it works, because it convinces people to take it. And that's all Trump is doing, and that's all we're doing really at every turn. Yes, we passed the big, beautiful bill. There's some really cool things in it. We had to have that to lower taxes or to keep the taxes from going up. We needed that. But almost everything else that we talk about every day that Trump is doing is simply enforcing the common sense that both parties together once had. That they got together, they passed laws, the American public was 80% on board with most of these things, like, we just don't think an open border is a great idea. We really should stop people there and check who they are. But over the Obama era, these things are all just forgotten about it. We're fat and happy. We're Americans. No big deal. Let them in. We got a big heart. Let these people in. It's okay. They're good for us. No, this is an awakening. Trump's calling it the golden age of America. It really is a throwback America. Almost everything that's happening in a good way is going back to what our laws are. You know why? Because we had really good laws here. We had 225 years of trial and error, Supreme Court challenges, amendments to the Constitution, new laws, replacing old laws. We've gotten better and better and better. And you know what isn't better? What isn't better is ignoring the law. Nobody's for that. Like the Democrats, they love to go out and say, oh, we're all about the Constitution. We're enforcing the law. We're going after Trump in courts. We love the law. No, they don't. No, they like ignoring it because most of the laws keep government from doing something. It's prohibitive for government, overreach, and others are set up to protect citizens in very strong ways. And since Obama came along, they just decided to ignore those things because they thought they were unfair for a certain number of people. No, most of all these laws are the same for every person. It may affect you differently based on who you are, where you live, what your income is, or whatever, but the laws are set up fairly for everyone. And that's where we are. Maybe that is the golden age. To me, it looks like we're just enforcing what we all knew was right. When we come back, I dive into the Charlotte train murder and some unbelievable crime stats. Next on Uncanceled.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Kevin Kietzman.
Uncanceled today is brought to you by our friends at bestofferkc.com, helping you leave the hassle behind. A woman named Beth called Best Offer KC a few months ago and said, I need your help and I need it quickly. Her dad had fallen seriously ill. His final wish was for his kids to sell the home and receive the money before he died and make sure it wasn't tied up in court and all kinds of weird things going on. And so Best Offer went to work on this very quickly. The team met with Beth and her sister. They listened to the story. They agreed on a price. The very next day, Beth called and said her dad likely only had about 24 hours left. That's when Best Offer KC dropped everything, the entire team. They rallied behind the family, and they made this entire thing happen. The sale closed in time for her dad to see his wish fulfilled for his daughters. This is not just real estate to them or to Best Offer KC. This is work of the heart. Many times, it is something fulfilling, and that's why so many families trust bestofferkc.com. They've got a giant heart, and they want to work with your family when you need them the most. Bestofferkc.com, helping you leave the hassle behind. You can reach them at 338-SOLD. That's 816-338-SOLD for bestofferkc.com. Okay, so I'm different than most people you will hear on radio or anywhere for that matter. I really don't like violence. I despise bloody, gory movies. I don't like horror films. And I will not watch the video of the woman being stabbed on that train in Charlotte. I've seen the clip where the killer comes up and stops the knife a few feet away. And I've seen the video after it occurred where she's sitting there with her face in her hands and doesn't realize what happens because she's in shock. But I have not seen the part where she falls down. I have not seen everything that many of you have seen or a lot of people have seen. I am not qualified to sit here really and comment in any great way on what the people did or didn't do on that train because I haven't watched it all. I would like to think I'm a person that would help and jump up and do that when it occurred. That's really what the discussion has become now. Our national discussion is, what about these people that didn't help? Well, that's the wrong national discussion to have, but it is a discussion to have, but it's overwhelmingly the one everybody's having at this point. From what I could tell, from when the man got up, not a single person saw this happen. They were all on their iPhones, their heads were down. It's what you do on public transportation. Let's just start with this. Almost everyone on this city-sponsored, free or cheap public transportation that is alone is terrified and wants to be left alone. I'm never riding any of it again. I've never been on the toy train here in Kansas City. I'm not riding a subway in New York again. I'm not going into any of it. It seems like the worst place you can possibly put yourself. This woman clearly didn't want any part of anyone. She gets on and just very quietly sits down on like an aisle seat, bothering nobody, gets on her phone, puts her head down. She's got a hat on. She's covering up, doesn't want anybody to see her. She's being as nondescript as she can possibly be. All she wants to do is get to the stop and get the hell off. That's all she wants. Nobody likes being on there. Ultimately, that's our problem with public transportation. Nobody wants to be on it. Hell, nobody wants to be on an airplane these days, but at least you know you're safe. There's some authorities, there's some protocol, there's real laws being enforced. You don't see this happen on an airplane. But there's nothing in these places. Don't get me started on that. I'd like to think I would help, but if this guy was running around waiting for the stop and had a knife in his hand, I'm not sure I would have thought, okay, 30, 40-year-old man that's bigger than me, I'm going to go try to take him down when he's got a knife? Really? I'm Indiana Jones all of a sudden? I'll definitely defend myself if he comes after me. If you go help her, she's on the ground at this point. You're going to get down on your knees and turn your back to this guy with a knife? He's still in the car for a while until he gets to his stop and gets out? I don't know, man. I wasn't there. I'd like to think I'd be the person that could help. I can promise you this. If I was on there with my family, no chance I'm leaving my kids. I'm covered up. You're going to have to stab through me to get to my kids. That's all I'd be thinking about. Everybody's thinking about something. So I don't know. I'm just not going to judge people like that. I do know people want to be left alone, and the bigger picture is we're a frightened society. I live in a nice neighborhood. I got up earlier this week at 5 a.m. It's dark. I take my dog out. I'm not doing anything a lot of people don't do. Getting up early, starting my day. I go out front every single day, and for whatever reason on this day, There is a strange-looking car that I can't see the license plate. I can't see anything. It's pulling into my cul-de-sac as I'm stepping outside. The trunk opens. It goes into park. The lights are flashing. The car door opens on the driver's side. I grab my dog and I go back inside. I don't know what this is. I have no idea. But when you see something you haven't seen before, you get a little scared. I didn't act the way I would know. If this was a person in distress that was having a heart attack and fell into the street, I wouldn't have known. I went into my house because I'm worried about me and my dog. We're all scared, folks. That's what's going on. And the truth that's out there, as Pete discussed yesterday with his crime stats about black men in America, who are only about 6% of the population, committing 52% of the murders in this country, most of them black on black, but also the overwhelming number of interracial murders are black against white. Expressed as a per capita percentage, it's outrageous. And then the stat we saw, 1 in 22 black men in this country will commit murder. That's just unbelievable. We've got a problem. And a podcaster, show host named Matt Walsh, you may have heard of him. I'm going to guess a lot of people in this audience know who Matt Walsh is, broke it down yesterday on what the real crime problem is, and he gets to the cherry on top at the end, which is, stay with this, it's only about a minute long. At the end, his summarization is, the most violent, dangerous person on earth, of any culture in any country on earth, are black men in America.
Statistically, a white person is 30 times more likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around. We know that. That's just true. In 2019, there were about 560,000 violent interracial incidents between blacks and whites. 470,000 of them were black on white. That's 85%. 85%. 240 black people were killed by whites. 560 white people were killed by blacks. And this is all in spite of the fact that white people make up 60% of the population. Blacks are 13%. Just by raw numbers, not even per capita, but raw numbers, there are more black interracial killers than white. That should be impossible. There are 171 million more white people in the country, and yet there are more black interracial killers. By raw numbers. The young black males in particular are an order of magnitude more violent and more likely to commit crimes than any other group in the country. Black men are 5 or 6% of the population. They commit the majority of murders in the country. That makes black males in America more dangerous than perhaps any other demographic in the entire world, let alone in this country.
I mean, that's Matt Walsh. It's really uncomfortable to talk about this and to say these things. But as Pete discussed earlier today about his DEI forum last night that he had, facts matter. And we have to start paying attention to the facts. The fact of the matter is we have a young black male murder problem in America. It is out of control, and there is no comp anywhere in the world. Now, you can say maybe Putin has killed more people because he's at war and he started a war and he's killing Ukrainians and he's had his own soldiers die. There are things like that. We're exempting war here. We're just talking about walking the streets of any country. It's terribly uncomfortable to hear it. Nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to believe it. But if young black men are the most likely people on earth in the United States to harm somebody, we got to fix that. Not sure I know exactly how, but we have to fix it. The phones we go. Here's Steven on Uncanceled. Good morning, Steven. How are you, sir?
Hey, Kev, I can give you an answer to your problem right now. It's called concealed to carry everywhere around the country. None of these guys would be popping off if they knew it was Wyatt Earp coming at him. Sean Brady would still be alive if they know these liberal jurisdictions have no concealed to carry. They know these liberals aren't carrying guns. They're afraid. Pop a couple of these guys down and take them down and see what happens. See if the percentages.
I think as a general rule, you're right. I don't think it would have prevented this guy in Charlotte because he's clearly crazy and has mental problems, and they knew that he's schizophrenic, and that's one of the things that. If you've got schizophrenia, you're not even thinking about your own safety. You're just crazed and you're doing something.
I don't even care. I don't care if he's got schizophrenia or not. He's sitting there with a bloody knife, walking up and down that goddamn subway car, saying, "I killed a white woman." Man, come on. Let's get some
He'd be
balls.
Dead.
Let's get some balls here.
I don't disagree with you. He'd be dead.
Screw schizophrenia, man. I tell you what. I would carry a stun gun if I'm going If I'm going into Chicago or New York, I'm carrying a stun gun, and I'd use it at the drop of a hat because I don't care. I don't care about your mental illness. I don't care about.
I understand.
I
understand. They dragged Daniel Penny through a trial over this when he was a subway hero. I'm not arguing that people would do that. Okay, what I'm telling you is this man was going to do this no matter what. He wasn't thinking, "Hey, I wonder if anybody in here's got a gun and I'm about to get shot." This guy's really got problems. Those people are hard. But your point is well taken. All right, if he had done that and somebody had a gun there, they would have shot and killed the guy. I just have no doubt. You get some former Marine on there packing heat, or an off-duty cop who's got it, or the guy's dead. He's still holding a knife. He's dead. He's dead. And yes, enough of that is a deterrent, and it helps. I'm for all these things. I'm not against any of them. Ultimately, our problem is our justice system, that this man was not in jail. He had done plenty of things to be in jail, and had been diagnosed as mentally ill. We need insane asylums in addition to prisons. We got people like Mamdani running for mayor of New York trying to get 1,000 people out of Rikers, wanting to let people out. No, we need to have insane asylums again. We've got to bring this back. We have to find a way to do this and make it safe again. We have to get the crazy people off the streets. I'm sorry. I feel bad for people with mental health problems, but you can't have schizophrenics that have been arrested 14 times, running around, carrying knives on public transportation. You can't do it. Stu's in Rosedale on KCMO. Hi, Stu.
Hi, Kevin. Well, I have to dispute the notion. And by the way, I am all for more concealed carriers for citizens being armed. And yes, it could be a deterrent. But I have to disabuse everybody of the notion that a good guy with a gun could have put this to a stop. Because there's a tactical consideration here, and it is called the 21-foot rule. And it is a fact that a person wielding a knife can stab you fatally long before, within 21 feet, he can stab you fatally before you can ever draw and fire your weapon. And there's just no disputing that.
Yeah, I don't think the argument is the girl, if she was packing, it would have saved her life, or that anybody could have saved her life.
No, I'm talking about another passenger intervening.
Right.
That passenger would have been stabbed as well.
Yeah, I think when this initially happened, somebody would have seen it. If you had a gun, you'd have drawn your gun at that point. And I think the guy would have been killed. He wasn't going after anybody else, but I think he would have been downed.
Well,
I'm not arguing your point that he could have killed others, but he didn't do that. He didn't do that. So if you drew a gun, if he didn't go after the people that were still there, and by what I could tell, it was people of color, and there are reports that he was hollering something about the woman being white. I don't want to get into all that, but they were. If you were sitting there and you drew your gun, you were going to be the last guy he was going to try to kill. He wasn't going to come after you at that point. I don't think. I mean, it stands. And if he did, you just pump him full of lead. I understand that you can be killed by a person with a knife if you have a gun. We've had that call before on this show. I think maybe Stu called and did this before. I get that. A wide number of things could have happened. But it would have been a better situation if a person had a gun. She'd probably still be dead, but so would he. And I have no eye for an eye, man. I got no problem. I'm with Trump. Trump called him an animal, says we got to prosecute this fast, and we got to kill him. He said death penalty fast. And maybe that's part of it. Great. You want to let these crazies run around? How about we start doing some executions on TV? Whitehouse.gov. Just put it on video. Here we go. Here comes the injection. Don't do this. Because if you think Trump's messing around, don't. Because guess what he's doing? He had the Coast Guard blowing up boats yesterday. The Coast Guard blew up a boat in the Caribbean. They boarded the boat. They captured the boat. And it had drugs in it. Then they pushed it away, and apparently they kept the people that were on it. They didn't harm them. Pushed it away in the middle of the night and just pummeled it full of bullets till it exploded. Sorry, your drugs and your boat are gone. Nobody was killed on that one. Great, that's the Coast Guard. If that's what the Coast Guard's doing, what else can we do? What else will Trump do? He's going to get really ticked on this, man. He went out to dinner in D.C. last night, and he was making a point that it's safe here. We now have a place where it's safe for the good people of America in their nation's capital to go do what they want. He took J.D. Vance with him. He took Rubio. It looked dangerous as hell to me. He's standing there talking to the media, and back behind him in the third floor of a window, there's a guy with the window open looking out it. Now, maybe that was a sniper. It didn't look like it. It just looks like some Joe that was trying to watch the president. I'll assume it was security, but the thing didn't look all that secure. And then some crazy, wacko Palestinian freaks are chanting at him in the restaurant. How'd they get in? I don't know. Trump's trying to prove that this is normal. I'm going out. It's not overly secure detail. D.C. is safe. That's what he's trying to prove. You will never have another president like this. He's nuts. I said on my podcast a year ago, I said what I would do. I said, if I was Trump and I won this thing, I wouldn't do an interview. I wouldn't meet the press. I would just go in and burn it all down and do all the things he's doing, and I'd stay in the bunker in the White House. I'd say, sorry, Joe Biden did this. I'm doing this. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not letting you know what's going on. We're just going to do it. But Trump's different. He's doing it all publicly, and he's doing it dangerously. It's not safe for him. What he's doing is not safe. I don't think he has a death wish, but he's not the safest and most secure president. And he's already had 2 attempts on his life in the last year plus. Uncanceled continues. We come back. World Cup tickets are on sale, and one politician is not happy, and another NFL team is building a new stadium. That's on Uncanceled.
You're listening to Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Mark Van Sickle, did you enter the lottery for World Cup tickets?
I did not, but I had my brother-in-law possibly doing it. I need to follow up with him this morning.
Today's the day. The tickets are on sale. Everybody can buy them today if you received a lottery ticket or you were, and I don't know how they go, whether by country or zip code or how it all works. Maybe it just puts you in a system that you can buy them and pick the location. I'm not sure I know much of the specifics of all this, but they're starting to sell today. Kansas City still saying 650,000 people are coming, and they're quietly at Visit KC thinking 1 million people are coming.
I think that's overshooting it.
I'm going to rent my house.
That's not a bad idea.
Oh, I'm going to rent my, if 1 million people are coming, I'm renting my house.
I told my brother-in-law he could have a free room at our house, and he's excited about that.
There you go. Maybe that'll be a lot of that. Mom Donnie in New York is not happy with this. He says the World Cup tickets are too much, and he's basically saying, you know Mom Donnie, right, the communist?
Yeah.
They're having the World Cup in the greatest city in the world, New York, and you can't go because life is unfair. That's the card he's playing. It'll probably work for him. He kicked a soccer ball into a net while he was doing it. He looks a lot better at that than lifting weights.
Yeah, I saw him tripping earlier. I don't know if he's that much better at lifting weights.
Oh, the weights was not good, but he did look better at soccer, but he's using it for political gain that the tickets cost so much for the World Cup in New York. Second day in a row, buddy, we've got an NFL team announcing a new stadium.
Who's it this time?
Denver Broncos have announced they're moving to Burnham Yard, which is the old rail yard, sort of adjacent to downtown. Think Stockyards to Kansas City downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's outside of downtown, but it's near enough. It's going to be $5.6 billion. That's their site. There will be no new taxes. And they say they're going to pay for it themselves. Now, I don't know exactly how that is. These are the Walmart people, and they're going for it. They're going to build an entire entertainment district around it to compete with Lodo and some of the other things in Denver. And I'm looking at a picture of the site, and it makes sense. There's freeways right there. It's close to downtown and hotels. I think they've probably got it right.
And they're going to have a retractable roof, right? So they
That's
can
right.
make the Super Bowl.
That's right. It'll be interesting to see how these retractable roofs play out because everybody's doing something differently now. In Tennessee, they've built, which they don't really need, they've built a dome, but the dome has glass over it that makes you believe you're outside all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll open windows and have fresh air coming in on the sides, but the roof will always be there. Like you go to a Titans game on a Sunday afternoon, you look up, the sun could be in your eyes, the whole thing. They're closing it in because of concerts and all the music in Nashville. Buffalo, they're leaving it open to play in the elements, but covering most of the fans and putting heaters in. And they believe they have a chance at a Super Bowl. Tennessee clearly will get one. Chicago wants to build a new stadium in Arlington Heights. They're doing that. They're moving out of downtown. And Denver, who just built a stadium 23 years ago, they're building a new one.
Yeah.
And they say retractable roof, but we'll have to see what that is exactly. My point is, and I'll just keep saying it here, nobody's renovating NFL stadiums.
Nope. Come on, Chiefs, over to Kansas. Let's go.
Just don't do it. They just don't do it. Nobody else is doing it. And the Chiefs are a big part of that. That's Uncanceled for today. Thank you so much for listening. Greatly appreciate it. The Vince Show is coming up next. This is KCMO Talk Radio.